Welcome to Hard Cam Wrestling Podcast, where falls count anywhere. There are no disqualifications and a 2-hour time limit. Introducing the participants. The opinionated one, Ryan Sangster. The 18-year-old piece of gold, Joseph Parr. The real deal, the anti-Miz, Ryan Palmer. And the real franchise, James Richards.
Welcome to the Hard Cam Wrestling Podcast with me, Ryan Palmer. This is the NXT and AEW review. I have again a special guest this week. Joining me is the apple of my eye, my binlid, my son. Yes, binlid kid. It's Cockney rhyming slang for kid. Binlid.
Okay then. No, whatever.
Say hello, Zac.
Yep, hi.
Introduce yourself, how old are you, etc.
I'm 15. Male.
Don't reveal too much. Male, yeah, obviously you're male.
Well, I don't know how else you want us to see.
You are. You're on the Hard Cam Wrestling Facebook group as well. Speaking of which, you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on YouTube as well. Good lad. Podbeam, Apple, Google, Amazon, Spotify as well. So yeah, we're kind of growing. Also follow us on Twitter at Hardcam Wrestling Pod. Follow me on Twitter at Yardy316. Zac doesn't do Twitter.
What is that name?
It's a good, decent friggin' name. So
I don't know. Like, disagree.
You disagree, do you?
Yeah.
You don't do Twitter, do you? You do Instagram and TikTok.
Snapchat. No, not TikTok. Yeah, Snapchat.
You don't do TikTok.
No.
So what wrestling do you like watching, Zac?
I'm mainly watch SmackDown and Raw, and get the odd clip of NXT. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. So you'll not be familiar with AEW.
No.
It's fine. When I come to it, I'll explain what it is and what happens on this particular show. And sort of what's been going on as well. So this week's NXT starts off with a recap of last week's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic matches, and there's highlights of the teams for the Women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and also highlights the Fight Pit match which comes up later on this evening, which should be the main event between Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher. Got the first round match of the Dusty Rhodes Classic, which is Ruff and Kushida versus The Way, Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory.
Like a champion or something.
Who? Which one?
Well, one of them's like the champ. One of them like Austin or Johnny Gargano or something, whatever his name is.
Johnny Gargano. He's the North American champion at the moment. So he and Austin Theory are in a tag team. They call themselves The Way. They're going against Kushida and Leon Ruff.
Wasn't there a new group that came out? It was like I don't know when it was. It was like a new, and like they attacked everyone or something. I don't know what was.
So yeah, there was. It's I think probably meaning Pete Dunne.
The names.
Lorcan. Were they all blokes, or was there a bloke and a woman?
No,
they're all blokes.
They're all blokes.
Yeah, you're thinking of Pat McAfee's crew, but only 3 of them are left. Pat McAfee's left for some reason. Yeah. We'll come to that later on during the show as well, because they pop up in a segment, in various segments throughout the show, in fact. So Beth Phoenix is actually in the studio this evening instead of doing the show through Skype. So there's a 3-man or 3-person booth. She then gets a party popper in the face from one of the commentators. And they all went off party poppers because they're all very pleased to see Beth in the studio.
It just get hits with it in the face.
Yeah, you know those party poppers that you pull at the bottom and they go. So he sat right next to her and he says, "Yeah, you're back," and he pops a freaking party popper in her face.
That's a bit stupid.
So, it is very stupid and very dangerous. But as I say, they all start letting off party poppers.
I thought Beth Phoenix was on SmackDown or Raw.
No. There's no other female commentators in WWE anymore apart from Beth. Yes, she's a commentator.
She's a wrestler now, right?
No, she's sort of retired. She might make a comeback, but she's retired, and she's in the Hall of Fame, and she's also on commentary for NXT.
I know that Wade Barrett's on commentary as well.
Yes, he is. He's on this commentary. So it's Wade Barrett, the other bloke, which I can't friggin' remember what his name is, and Beth Phoenix. And the bloke in the middle is the one who lets off the party popper. The story of the match is that Ruff and Theory are pretty fast-paced. Ruff likes to use the ropes. He likes to jump off the middle rope onto the top rope, or from the bottom rope to the middle rope, and do all sorts of flippy kind of stuff like that. He does a middle rope move and jumps into
a DDT.
No. He jumps backwards into Austin Theory. Austin Theory catches him and puts him in a sort of a torture rack move.
There's one that does that. He goes, he's on the apron, then he jumps over and into a DDT.
Yes,
I don't know who it is, but I just remember that move.
It's probably one of the Lucha guys, which will come.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Lucha. It was. I think it was a white man. I don't know the name.
Gargano does that move, sort of.
Possibly him.
Could have been him. So Liam Ruff nearly turns it into a crucifix pin, but he only gets a 2 off that. There's a bit of a double team move between Ruff and Kushida on Austin. Kushida controls Austin with an armbar. He tagged in Gargano and Kushida tag get into fisticuffs. There is a lot of double team moves. A blind high five between Austin and Gargano, which is a stupid gimmick at the moment. There's a bit where Ruff tries to get the tag to Kushida because he's in a bit of a situation, but Gargano pulls Kushida off the apron, so Ruff can't tag. So they drag him into the corner for a double team, swinging neck breaker kind of a move for a 2 count. Ruff comes back, he gets a cutter on Austin after Austin goes for a power bomb. There's a hot tag to Kushida. He gets an arm bar on Gargano and a suplex onto Gargano, but Austin breaks it up. There's a neck breaker super kick combo from Gargano and Austin for a 2 count. There's a DIY sort of homage from DIY. That was the.
No, I understand the DIY, but what was the move?
Oh, it was like well, it wasn't a move as such. It was the action into the move. So what DIY used to do was they used to like hold their hands in the air and like they were praying, and then super kick the guy in the middle of the ring. But what was happening was Gargano was doing that. Austin was holding Ruff in the middle of the ring for Gargano super kick Ruff, or Kushida even. But Ruff broke that attempt up, dives on Austin outside the ring. There's a hip toss dropkick combo from Kushida to Gargano, then some sort of arm lock bridging suplex So Kushida puts Gargano's arm sort of behind him, and then it's like a Northern Lights kind of suplex, or is it like possibly like a German suplex? But is it a bridge on the suplex? Gargano can't get out of it, and Gargano's pinned for 3. So the Ruff and Kushida go on to face the Grizzled Young Veterans in the next round of the Dusty Rhodes Cup, which also means because Kushida's pinned Gargano twice in consecutive weeks, that puts him on course for a title match for the North American Championship. Yes. So yeah, good enough match. Furthered the storyline between Kushida and Gargano. Gargano versus Kushida should be a really, really, really good match because they're very, very good wrestlers. Backstage, you got Pete Dunne. There's a not backstage, so there's a Pete Dunne video package next, where he basically said he made NXT UK. He says people have said that he and Finn are cut from the same cloth. He says Finn will pass the torch to him, and Finn will witness his legacy. He complains about Finn leaving the English wrestling scene and NXT. He's never in NXT UK. Well, Finn Balor went to Japan, and then from Japan he went to NXT, and then from NXT he was on Raw. I think he might have been on SmackDown for a little bit, and then he went back to NXT. So it's basically Pete Dunne being very bitter and twisted because, like a couple of weeks ago, Finn told Dunne to get in line if he wants a shot at the NXT Championship. And then last week, Dunne says, I'm not waiting in line. I'm just going to take my shot now and try to jump him in the ring. And that ended up in a fight. So the next title match is probably going to end up as Pete Dunne versus Finn, which I don't think Dunne will win, but it'll be a good match. The real match would be...
I don't think he'll win.
I don't think he'll win. It's going to be... Because the real match will be... Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross, which is what they're trying to push. Karrion Kross has come back from injury. He had the NXT Championship, but he had to drop it because of injury, and he's kind of pissed off, and he wants his title shot. He wants his title back, basically. Commentaries say that Kyle O'Reilly is cleared for action because his jaw was broken, but his jaw was aggravated last week with the various beatdowns. Well, Kyle and Kyle and Finn were in a match 2 weeks ago, and they beat the ever-loving crap out of each other. Actually, before that, a couple of weeks before that, they were in a match where Kyle had broken Finn's jaw.
Wasn't there a match at Christmas that you told us about where it was like I don't know, I can't remember like specifically, but it was like they just kept beating each other up or something.
It may have been this match. It may have been that one. And then they had another match for the title, and Kyle had his jaw broken. So, like in both matches that they've had, they've beaten the ever-loving shit out of each other and broken bones and stuff. And then last week, so they're kind of even, yeah. Last week, Pete Dunne and Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch beat up Kyle O'Reilly and aggravated his jaw. But it apparently isn't too serious, and he's cleared. There's another video package. It's the video package of Karrion Kross, who's next. He has eyes on gold. We've got a backstage segment of Malcolm Bivens, who he says he's going to go to Regal's office and try and get a match.
Who's Regal?
William Regal. He's the general manager stroke authority figure of NXT.
Who's the bloke that's with? I think it's Shotzi Blackheart. Who's he and how's he relevant?
there isn't a bloke with Shotzi Blackheart.
So is she the one with the tongue? Like
Yes.
small?
Yep.
So who does she keep running over?
Oh, him. He's I can only remember his name is Robbie E from TNA. I can't remember what his friggin' name is in this, but he was like a manager, like a really rubbish manager of a few women in NXT, and all his women lost, and she kept running them over with the tank. I think we'll see him next week because a couple of one of his clients is in the Women's Dusty Classic next week.
What's their beef then? Like, why does she keep running them over?
I don't think they have a beef anymore. It's probably just been settled. But the beef was that he kept interfering in her matches. I think he tried to recruit her for his sort of stable, but that didn't work out. And so she kept running him over with the tank. Robert Stone, that's what his name is. The Robert Stone brand. He tried to recruit her for that, but that didn't work out. But as I say, he's got a couple of women in his, or at least Alia is in his stable, and she is wrestling next week, so he may be out there next week. But yeah, we haven't seen him for months. Malcolm Bivens, another manager, as I say, he's outside William Regal. William Regal's the general manager. He's English. He's been on Raw and SmackDown. He's been on WWE. He's been in WWE, WWF, WCW, World of Sport Wrestling. He's a legend. So now he's the general manager. He makes matches. Malcolm Bivens is trying to get a match for his bloke, and I can't remember what his bloke is called. His bloke is called Tyler Rust. That's it. But Tyler Rust is in the office, and he gets the match. He makes the match instead, and it's a match for him and Bronson Reed. And Malcolm Bivens is just
like a big fellow.
Yes, he is. Bronson Reed is huge. Tyler Rust is
he like that 6 foot Donny who's like really tall and just can just beat anyone up?
No, Bronson Reed is more big, as in like fat.
No,
but he can fly as well.
Oh, that's what I might have been thinking of.
But
he looks like he's gonna kill someone. Like the way like in his expressions, he just doesn't look happy. And like he jumps off the top rope and he just jumps on you and you just can't get up. She's like that fat.
Yeah, well, we'll come to that later on. So I mean, Bronson Reed, Malcolm Bivens just says, no, that's not the direction I want you to go in. That wouldn't have been the match that I would have booked you for. And so they walk off. The next match is Karrion Kross versus Shanti Adonis. Shanti Adonis is out there with his tag team partner, who's supposed to be in the Dusty Classic, Desmond Troy. There's Troy's on the outside, but their match would have been on 205 Live, which is stupid.
Why? Why is it stupid?
Because hardly anyone watches 205 Live anymore.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's still going, strangely enough. So Karrion Kross, he's the really angry bald guy that I think you are referring to. He basically hits 2 Saito suplexes on Shanti Adonis and then hits him with what I call a reverse hidden blade. So as I say, it's a bit of a rip-off of Will Ospreay's hidden blade move. Karrion Kross gets the 3 count. And because Shanti Adonis looks like he's really messed up, everyone's in a couple of refs are in the ring. Desmond Troy gets in the ring and checks to see if he's all right. And then Karrion Kross goes back and gets Desmond Troy in the straitjacket and puts him to sleep. And then later on, it's announced that both of them are not in the Dusty Classic because Karrion Kross fucked him up, basically. We get a video package of MSK which I think is going to be is short for the must-see kids. Ember Moon puts them over. They say they'll win the Dusty Cup. They use all the usual WWE speak. It took blood, sweat, and tears for us to get here. That kind of stuff. So it's just like, ugh, they've messed up you kids already, have they? Ugh, well. It kind of started off like the Treehouse segments that they did in TNA, in Impact, because they were both in the ring instead of actually sitting there. It kind of reminded me of the Treehouse segments, but in a WWE way.
Is there beef between Rhea Ripley and that Kai that's still going on?
Dakota Kai?
Yeah.
No, because where it was between Rhea Ripley and I'm going to say Martinez, but it wasn't her. It was Rhea Ripley, and I can't even remember what her name is, even though I watched the damn TV show. The beef she had is finished now, basically.
They had the match and like she got put into a cage or something.
Yeah, it was last week's last woman standing match.
Yeah.
And Dakota Kai tried to interfere. It's Raquel Gonzalez. So she was in a match with Raquel Gonzalez. Rhea Ripley, Dakota Kai come out to try and interfere, and then Rhea put Dakota Kai in a locker and blocked the locker so she couldn't come out. It was a pretty funny spot. But yeah, that rivalry's over now because she lost that to Raquel Gonzalez.
Didn't she get put through like the floor or something?
Yeah, she got chokeslammed through the floor and couldn't make the 10 count. So it's likely that she'll be called up to Raw or SmackDown and possibly.
She's good against Charlotte.
Yes, yeah.
They've both got like that fighting spirit and like don't want to give up.
Well,
that'd be a good match.
They were in last year's women's NXT Championship match. Oh. Not a Royal Rumble at WrestleMania, and Rhea lost to Charlotte. So hopefully, if she does come to SmackDown or Raw, she'll get a return match with Charlotte and get her win back, so to speak. Martinez and Storm interviewed backstage. They say they're not friends, but they're two tough women, and they tell their opponents to enjoy their first round exit, and they pull stupid faces to try and look tough, but they look stupid. It looks really dumb. And then we go to the next match, which is Imperium versus the Lucha House Party, which kind of surprised me. The outcome surprised me because I didn't expect.
Lucha House Party win?
Yes, they did. Even though they got the jobber entrance, they were in the ring with no entrance music or anything, and then Imperium got their full entrance. So there's a clash of styles. There's like a lucha style and the ground grappling style. The mat is sacred style of Imperium. They like to put people in the holds and joint locks. Lucha House Party, Grand Metal League likes to dive off the ropes and do splashes and moonsaults. Same with Lince Dorado as well. At one point, Metal League is on Lince Dorado's shoulder and dives off his shoulders onto Fabian Eichner to get a bit of a 2 count. There's a lot of decent double team moves, a code red, delayed suplexes. There's a bit of a botched move, a moonsault to the outside from Metal League on the Fabian Eichner. Lucha House Party actually win the match. with a shooting star press on Barthez. After the match, the other member of Imperium Wolf, who was in NXT UK, but is somehow all of a sudden back in NXT. He's on the entrance ramp and he meets them. For who knows what reason? Maybe they're all going to fall. Maybe Walter will come to NXT somehow. Which means Lucha House Party meet Legado del Fantasma next week in the rounds. In the next round, there's a fight pit weigh-in after this. Regal wishes them both luck.
How come Lucha House Party went from WWE to NXT?
Because NXT needed tag teams for the Dusty Rhodes Classic. That's the only explanation that I can think of. It's really, really stupid, but the only one that I can think of. They are like with Riddle at the moment. They're hanging around Riddle for some bizarre reason.
Well,
So it's really strange. Riddle. Yes, Matt Riddle, but they call him Riddle.
I thought he signed on to SmackDown.
He is on SmackDown, yeah, and the Lucha House Party are on SmackDown as well.
So was it like a swap then? But Lucha House Party is still signed with SmackDown.
Who knows? It's really weird. For some reason, they're on SmackDown and they are on. They're in this tournament as well, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because otherwise, why don't they just do it with other teams? But they don't do it with other teams. There's a lot of things that don't make sense.
They're like the only real high flyers.
Well, you've got them and the Legado del Fantasma. They're high flyers as well. They're pretty good. It's not Fandango. That's Breezango. Tyler Breeze and Fandango. Legado del Fantasma is right, let me just googling live on air because my memory is bad. Legado del Fantasma are made up of. We'll see them later on in the show. So it will be explained. Santos Escobar, who's the 205 Live, well, he's the cruiserweight champion at the moment. Although in NXT UK, there is also a NXT UK cruiser. There's also the what's his name? Irish Ace. Jordan Devlin. He's the cruiserweight champion as well. So at some stage, there's going to be a clash between Santos Escobar and Jordan Devlin. So Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde are also in Legado del Fantasma, and they will be in action with Lucha House Party next week, or in the next round anyway, which should be a really good match because that's two Lucha teams.
How many rounds is there like?
You got the first round, second round, quarters. That can't be right.
Wait, so is it not like a football? How it's like you've got the first round, then you got like second, then you got knockout stage, round 16, quarter, semi, and then the final. Would it not be like that?
Let's just have a look. 2020 Dusty Rhodes Classic. 2021 even. Let's have a look. 2021. Yeah, so it's like first round, second round, semis, and then the final.
That's pretty pointless then. Kind of 4 rounds.
Yeah,
so the tournament made it last longer than 4 rounds.
Well, they can't really because they've got short memory spans, short attention span. So it's
What, the audience or the wrestlers?
The creative team at WWE or stroke NXT. I mean, they're trying to win ratings as well against AEW. So they can't, if they make it a very long tournament, people just lose interest, so they won't watch.
They should at least make like the final like it's steel cage Extreme Rules or something like that. Last man standing, just beat the crap out of each other.
They might do that, but
something like that.
Don't think that's going to happen. But it's very creative.
So I would watch that if it was like people like they ended up bleeding everywhere. And I think I would watch that. So it'd be entertaining. So
it might be something they would do because just to pop a rating. If they wanted to get a better rating than AEW,
that would pop ratings.
That probably would. Yes, I mean they've done it before. They've announced wacky matches for the sake of having wacky matches and got a decent rating from up against AEW, but they tend not to do that anymore and just save big matches for big shows.
Wasn't that like that? It was, I don't know what match it was like on Raw. It was Orton against McIntyre, and then the steel cage where Sean McMahon jumped off the top of the cage at Mick Foley, but then like McIntyre ended up hurting himself instead of Orton. It just kind of failed. Like that type of wacky match.
Sort of. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think McIntyre was involved in that particular match, or Foley even.
No, I know, but no. What I meant was like how, I don't know what year it was, but like how Shane McMahon done that, but then at this match, McIntyre done it, but then put himself through the table instead of putting Orton through the table.
Yeah, that happened. Yes. We got the beginning of the Women's Dusty Classic. Regal starts it off, and then Beth kicks it off, name-checking loads of women that have competed on NXT, but she says all the people that have competed in the building and goes on about Charlotte and Bayley and a lot of other women that haven't actually competed in that particular.
Are they really going to waste their time on someone that they barely know? Because they're all big time. Charlotte's even got the tag team championship, so she's really going to go down and fight someone she doesn't really need to fight.
Well, they're just name checking them. They're saying, they're making it more prestigious. They're just saying, in honor of women such as this, that, and the other. This is why we're having this tournament. These women kicked off the women's revolution in NXT, which has paved the way for this women's tournament. Those women like Charlotte and Bayley and
also, it wasn't
Alexa
really anything bad. So it was more like them complimenting them for getting where they are.
Yes. Yep. So the next match is Toni Storm and Martinez versus Caden Carter and Casey Catanzaro. Catanzaro and Carter are really, really tiny. They're about 5'0", and they can barely see over the top rope. Storm and Martinez tower over them. They are really, especially Martinez. Martinez just throws around Carter and Catanzaro. But Carter and Catanzaro, they hold their own. They're really high flying. They're really fast. They use a lot of quick double team moves. They use a lot of fast paced action. Toni Storm is really tough as well. There's a lot of suplexes and headbutts and single leg crabs from both Martinez and Storm. So at one point during the match, Io Shirai, the women's champion, comes down, pulls Martinez off the apron. She basically takes revenge on Martinez because Io Shirai was in a match a few weeks ago, and Martinez put Io Shirai through the announce table. Or I think, or was that that could have been the what's her face from? Well, either way, she gets put through. She gets put on the but she gets flung onto the announce table, which means she just goes over and lands in a heap. So that means that Toni Storm can't tag out because she's got no one to tag to. So because she's distracted, Carter puts Toni Storm in some sort of weird leg lock, and then Casey Catanzaro goes to the top rope. She hits like a black arrow, some weird twisty spinny move, and lands on Toni Storm, and they get the 3 count. So that means Caden Carter and Casey Catanzaro progress to the next round. Storm and Martinez are out. So if you get a chance to see that match, or at least the finish, have a look on YouTube. Just put in like Dusty Rhodes women's match, and it might show the finish to the match, and you'll see the top rope maneuver Casey hits, and it is really, really good. It's really impressive. Then we get William Regal talking to Finn Balor. Finn says he wants Pete Dunne, but he wants to go through Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch first, because he's hard as F. He's hard as fuck. And he wants to go through Oney and Danny, because to show he's tough. He's tough as nails, and he doesn't back down from anyone. Regal says, no, you need a partner, Finn. And Finn says, I ain't got any friends. I've only got enemies. So
then make friends.
he basically made it hard for himself, but by not making friends when he came back to NXT. So
let's keep it up again.
Regal just says to him, keep your enemies closer then. Nod, wink, wink. So then we get Bronson Reed and Swerve Scott backstage. You don't hear what Swerve Scott says to Bronson Reed, but later on it's revealed that Bronson Reed, Swerve Scott just says, you look good, don't interfere in my matches in my business ever again. Then we get a backstage segment of Ciampa chatting with the ref's going over the fight pit rules. Then an interview with Casey and Caden. They say they're going to win the whole thing, and they all whoop up and go, yeah, we're going to win the whole thing, yeah, and they go away. And Mackenzie, who's doing the interviewing, says Desmond Troy and what's his face are not cleared for Friday. Tyler Rust makes his way to the ring with Malcolm Bivens for his match with Bronson Reed. Reed's entrance is like he's supposed to be Godzilla or some man melting, and he's got like a lizard or a Godzilla on his neck, on his ring jacket. He looks kind of stupid. As he walks up the ring steps, the camera shakes to emphasize that he's big and tough. Reed works on Rust kind of works on Reed's arm a lot. He tries to use a lot of chains and holds, and tries to take away Reed's base, like take away his legs so he can't stand up. And then it cuts away to backstage, and you get Storm and it's either Io Shirai or Mercedes Martinez fighting in the back. So there could be maybe a triple threat brewing between Storm, Io, and Mercedes Martinez later down the line.
I think I've seen her once.
Who?
Quite Storm and Io Shirai, I think it was.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know what match it was, but I think I remember them. So,
You probably have done.
yeah.
There's a choke slam from Reed to Russ.
Yeah.
Then,
2 seconds. 2 seconds.
Yep. Then Reed hits a top rope splash for the 3, which Barrett calls a tsunami. So Reed wins that. Malcolm Bivens says to Russ that next time he'll pick his battles, and it's just a stumbling block. So he doesn't complain. He just consoles Tyler Rust. Finn says that there are a few people that owe him a favour, so he'll pick his partner for next week. Thatcher's going over the rules with a ref backstage. And then Finn chats with the Undisputed Era. He picks Kyle over Roddy and Cole. They seem fine about it. They're not in a mood. Then Santos Escobar cuts a promo about doing what he wants to do and how this is. I've just put, how is this not setting up a match between him and the Irish Ace, Jordan Devlin, which it must be at some stage. He slags off Johnny Gargano, saying that he doesn't need to overcome a curse. Slags off Finn, says he doesn't give up a title after or getting injured or doesn't get injured, which leads him on the carrying cross, slags him off. And then he sent Lucha House Party packing last week, even though they were in a match last week, earlier on in the show, so not really being sent packing, but okay. And then Lucha House Party come out. If you mention someone's name, they will appear on these shows.
Randomly, so you could just mention someone and then just walk out, even if it's not relevant.
Exactly. Yeah. If you invoke someone's name in a promo, they will appear.
What? So say I was in the ring, and
Yep.
you were backstage. I just say, "Oh, this Ryan thinks he's all big up himself." You would just come out and then it'd be a match.
Damn straight, especially if you're mentioning my name like that. Come to the ring, tell you to take my name out your mouth, slap the taste out your mouth, and then it's on. I'd catch you in a heartbeat, Zach.
No, you wouldn't, old man.
So there's a big schmoz. Mendoza and Wilde are beating up Lucha House Party. Kurt Stallion from 205 Live comes in and makes a save, randomly enough. Another backstage segment of Drain and Maverick. Drake says MSK are good, but Dane and Maverick are a lot better. They're going to climb to the top of the mountain, etc., etc. Dane is totally impressed by Maverick's promo. Then become the main event. Well, become the ring announcer on top of the fight pit. He says, "Welcome to the fight pit." And then it cuts to Curtis Stallion being interviewed backstage. Santos interrupts and says he challenges Curtis Stallion for a match next week and actually puts his own title on the line. So that's the Cruiserweight title for next week. We go back to the fight pit. The rules are it's KO or submission in the pit only. There's no ropes, no DQs. Both Thatcher and Ciampa start off on the top, hitting each other with punches and kicks. No one goes over. I don't know why they start on the top of the fight pit instead of inside the fight pit.
What's the fight pit?
A fight pit is like a cage match, but unlike a cage match, there's no ropes. It's just a cage and like a platform on top where you can walk around. But once you're in the cage,
is it where like both rings are like connected together?
that's War Games. This is like
Wow.
this is the fight pit. There's the only rules are KO, knockouts, or submission only. There's no rope breaks. There's no ropes. You can just beat the living shit out of your opponent. There's no roof on the cage either, which is what War Games usually is about. And there's only one ring. There's a lot of nasty moves in the match. People getting slingshotted into the steel barrier thing. Then once they get in the ring, there's a lot of joint locks on each other. Thatcher's trying to get a Kimura on. Ciampa is hitting knees to Thatcher's faces. Thatcher hits. I think Ciampa hits Thatcher into the fence. Gets him in a single leg cramp. Single leg crab even. Thatcher slaps on a sleeper hold. Ciampa breaks that with a low blow. Kicks him in the balls basically. Ciampa hits a DDT. Hits his Widow's Bell move by somehow jumping off the referee who's bent down for some reason. Ciampa hits his fairy tale ending move, then a sleeper. Doesn't get the win off that. Thatcher gets Ciampa in between the cage joints. So you got in the corner where the steel cage should meet, there's a gap. But Thatcher puts Thatcher in between the gap. So Ciampa would be late. He's hanging upside down. One of his legs is out. And then Thatcher puts him in like a stretch muffler move and locks his hand. And because Ciampa can't move, he has to tap out. So Thatcher wins. After the match, they have a bit of a respectful look at each other. They don't shake hands, they just have a look, and that's it. So Thatcher wins. Ciampa, they might form a tag team together with each other, which would be interesting.
Would that be a good tag team?
Be a very rough tag team. It'd be very good. They'd probably break a lot of bones and stuff. Or Ciampa might be going up to going to Raw or SmackDown.
Would he be good on that? Oh, I don't know.
He possibly. He couldn't be any worse than he is now. He's kind of treading water on NXT at the moment. He's neither out nor summit, as some people would say. Or he might debut in the Rumble. Who knows? But there's got to be something. What, going in the Rumble?
No, the first bit. That he's leaving something out.
I think he's probably going up to. I think he's going to be called to Raw or SmackDown. Because I don't think he can be on NXT for much longer. He's just treading water. He's won every title on there. I think he's won them.
So how is he not champion now then? If he's won every title,
because they've got other people there now. So they're pushing.
He's not good then, is he?
Well, he's still good.
If he was good, he'd be able to retain every single title. So he's not that good, obviously.
He's very good. He's good.
Not. I think you're lying.
I think you're sadly mistaken, son.
I don't think so. You're just lying.
No, I'm not lying. Right. So the next show is AEW. So as you say, you've not seen AEW before. AEW was formed by Cody Rhodes.
I was going to say Dean Ambrose.
Dean Ambrose is in AEW, but he's going by his name of John Moxley, and he has been the AEW champion. So it was formed by a guy called Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Cody Rhodes. It's been going for like a year and a half now, and it's really, really good. This particular episode wasn't that good. It was very botchy. I'll come to the various things that happened that weren't so good. But it is praised for its stories, for its long-term booking. It does reward the audience with good payoffs to some of its storylines. It doesn't treat its audience as stupid, and it's got like a ranking system as well. But sometimes that's a bit abused. The matches are really good, and if you get a chance to see AEW, try and catch AEW. It's on
what channels are they on?
It's on ITV4 on Saturdays at about 10. I think if you just search on the on whatever you've got,
watch it. No, I don't know.
give it a go.
Is it good?
Yes, it's really good. You should like it. I think you would like it actually. It looks a lot different from WWE, but don't let that put you off. Give it a watch. You would like it. So the first match is the Dark Order with -1. Last 2 weeks ago, there was a guy called John Huber who died. He was really, really decent bloke, and everyone loved him. And there was a tribute show.
Wasn't that the bloke that died? Wasn't he part of Bray Wyatt's?
Yeah, Luke Harper.
Yeah.
And AEW held a tribute show, and his son, who's known as -1, he's Brody Jr., but he's known as -1 because the Dark Order have members that have numbers in their name. So it's just a thing. I'm not even too sure myself. But there's guys with names: John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and then there's a 5 and a 6 and a 10 and a 99 of the Dark Order. It's bizarre.
So there's actual 99 people in the Dark Order, or
there's not even 99 people. There's just a lady called 99.
Well, she just seems like she's up herself, really. Then
she
wants to be the 99th person.
Well, no, she didn't give herself that number. It was given to her by Mr. Brody Lee. She should not up herself.
Well, she's going to turn down the number, so
she can't turn down the number. It's a cult. So they're in a cult, and you get told what to do, and you do what they tell you to do.
Oh, so that's like the group on who terrorized SmackDown.
No, not them at all. You're thinking of Retribution.
Yeah.
No, they're way better than Retribution. Are absolutely rubbish. That's why they just are. They're terrible. They're absolutely woeful. They lose matches, and they're just rubbish.
I swear they're not even around anymore.
They are around. They're still around, but they're absolutely useless. But there's this one guy who's really trying, which is
Slapjack.
Mustafa Ali. He's trying to make it work, but it's just not working. So anyway, back to this. So it's a birthday party celebration for -1, his 8th birthday. There's a cake. John Silver says tonight is special as they've got a new recruit, which they're hoping to be Hangman Page, and it's Brody Jr.'s birthday as well. They all sing happy birthday, but then they're interrupted by Dr. Luther and Serpentico. These are...
What are these names? Who comes up with these names? Serpentico,
like serpent. He's a luchador, and his costume is like a serpent. I think.
Stupid names, honestly.
So Luther says they don't care that it's his birthday and it's not a daycare centre. Says he doesn't look stupid and his face is symmetrical. He slags off the Dark Order. Says he doesn't like children and they're going to ruin him and ruin his birthday. This sets off a brawl between the Dark Order and Serpentico and TH2, which are two other tag teams. Hangman Page leaps in and he dives off the stage onto everyone that's brawling. Then the match starts. There's a lot of action in it. Helico gets a leaping uppercut to his face from...
Isn't Helico like some sort of Greek god or something?
Angelico, Angelico. I don't know what this Greek god is yet. Possibly, but I'm speaking about something else entirely, Zach.
Well, that name just popped in my head, so it reminded us of a Greek god, so I'd say that.
That's fantastic. There is like a lot of good 3-man moves. There's a 450 splash from Jack Evans on Reynolds. Luther goes to powerbomb Colt onto the birthday cake, but -1 hits Luther with a kendo stick, and then Luther is face planted onto the cake by Colt Cabana. Then -1. Basically, the Dark Order win. -1 gets on the mic and says his birthday was 3 days ago. Throws papers at Serpentico, which is a running gag.
Why is it a running gag?
Because what Mr. Brody used to do was throw papers at members of the Dark Order whenever they pissed him off or if they got something wrong. So he, being his son, he did the same to Serpentico. And then John Silver proposes to Paige. He says to Paige, you got nice eyes and you got long hair. Please, can you be in the Dark Order? But Hangman Page says no. But as he says no, there's lots of streamers, and he said yes, banner. There's people dancing with party hats, but they get ushered away because they were expecting him to say yes, but he says no. He says he's done the group thing before and he can't do the group thing again. So he walks away. He takes a bottle of Jack Daniels from one of the Dark Order and he walks down the heel tunnel. In two
types of tunnels?
Yes. There's one that to the left and there's one to the right. People that go in and out the right are the good guys, the faces, and the ones that go to the left, go in and out the left are the bad guys, the heels. Although Cody Rhodes comes out of the middle, so I don't know what the hell that makes him. That makes him a tweener, as people say. Tweener is
tweenies or something.
I hate that term myself. I don't think it really exists. It's somebody who's supposed to be not necessarily bad, not necessarily good, but there's somewhere in between, hence tweener. But as I say, Page goes down the heel entrance, possibly because he sees himself as a heel, not necessarily that he is a heel, because of all the stuff that he's done. Alex Marvez is backstage interviewing MJF and Chris Jericho. MJF totally and utterly owns Marvez. MJF says that Marvez's breath smells worse than rats having an orgy in a running microwave, which is just terrible. MJF says he doesn't want the inner circle to split up. Jericho says that this will make the group stronger, and MJF just backs up the claim. Tony Schiavone's in the ring. He introduces Sting, who's wearing a Brody Lee t-shirt.
Wait, like Sting, like who had a fight? No, it doesn't matter. No.
Well, Sting, who was in WWE for a while, but his contract ran out, so he's in AEW. Sting's like a legend from WCW, from wrestling in general, basically. But he turned up on AEW a couple of weeks ago to lots of fanfare, which is a big shock. He introduces the TNT champion Darby Allin. In the ring, Sting says that Darby reminds him of him and that he's a phenomenal wrestler. And then Team Taz interrupts him and says that they fight dirty. And if they want to take it to the street, they'll take it to the street. And then Darby Allin basically says, be careful for what you wish for. And then the segment ends. So basically, there could very well be a street fight between members of Team Taz versus Sting and Darby Allin, which probably is a bad idea for Sting because he's 60 years old.
It's weird how all these wrestlers are 50 and 60 and they're still flinging themselves about.
Yeah.
Could you be bothered though? If you're 60, doesn't matter what shape you're in, jumping off the top rope and things, and I just couldn't be bothered really. It's too much effort.
No, I think it's for the love, the adulation of the fans, and for the love of the sport itself. If it was me and I was doing it, I'd friggin' well still be doing it at 60 years old. I know that, and I would still be doing it. There's a strange, dodgy recap of Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa's segment last week, and then an advert for Beach Break in 2 weeks of their match. The Elite and the Bucks. All right. The Young Bucks are at outside of Kenny Omega's house. Alex Marvez is already there, and the Bucks say, that's a bit random. Why are you here and stuff? Michael Nakazawa meets the Young Bucks, makes their allows them into the house. I can't even find what the word is. They see a painting on the wall of Kenny Omega and Don Callis. They are in the painting. They're both ripped to shreds, and it's an unrealistic picture of Don Callis in particular because he's not ripped. He's bald and he's fat. Then there is Don comes in. They complain to Don about last week because last week Don Callis is the EVP, Executive Vice President of Impact Wrestling, which is another president. Because he just is. But he's also Kenny Omega's longtime friend as well, and he helped Kenny Omega.
Does he fix his matches then?
He kind of he fixes him, as in he fixes him. He cheats for him and stuff. And last week he was going to introduce the Bucks as Kenny's best friends, but he ended up introducing another tag team as Kenny's best friend, and they are really annoyed at that. So they're complaining to Don about that. They say that he wasn't with Kenny when he was in Japan. They want to know why Kenny doesn't answer their calls anymore, and Don was like, he changed his number. Don't you have his number anymore and stuff? I can arrange for you to have his number. And then Alex Marvez comes in for some reason, and then he orders Alex Marvez and the camera guy to the dungeon. Michael Nagasawa takes them to the dungeon, but they leave the camera, so the camera's still rolling. Don tries to pay off the Bucks with money, with checks, but they tear the checks up and say that the checks are useless. And then the Bucks start to take off their tops. They go towards Don Callis, and Don Callis is like, "No, please, no!" And then the screen goes black. So it's kind of like that. There's an old Simpsons episode where Homer's being interviewed, and the interviewer hacks up the interview to make it look like Homer was being abusive to the interviewer. It's kind of like that. So we don't know what happens to Don if the Bucks did beat up. If the Bucks did beat up,
it's left everyone like in the dark and like suspense.
For now, it does. Yeah, but we'll come to that later on. The next match, we go back to this stadium. It's Pretty Peter Avalon versus Cody Rhodes. For some reason, Peter Avalon is not the librarian anymore. He picked up a few wins, and now he's Pretty Peter. It's really stupid. He kind of comes out like ravishing Rick Rude with a gown, and makes himself look like he's really sexy. Cody hits a crossroads straight away. Doesn't go for the pin. Jade Cargill's music hits, and she comes out and stands on the ramp. While the ref's distracted by this, Peter kicks Cody in the balls, and then in the knee.
Well, what's the point of kicking someone in the knee if you've already kicked them in the balls? It's just
exactly
like salt into the wound, really.
It's not really a good match because it goes a bit long. It's very competitive. Cody, the gimmick is that Peter doesn't like being hit in the face because he's Pretty Peter now. So he avoids his face getting hit and being hit. There is a superplex from Peter onto Cody, which is really impressive. Before that, JR says, "What's the point of going to the top rope?" And then Tony Schiavone says, "Well, going to the top rope when you got the advantage." So fucking Tony's owned JR there. Because JR basically just slags off the matches each week, and
didn't JR start on Raw or SmackDown?
Yes. Well, years and years ago, he was on WCW, and then went to WWF, and he was there for years. And he's been in other organisations, and now he's ended up in AEW. Back to the match. There's Cody puts in a figure 4 leg lock. Peter tries to reverse it. It gets reversed back. Peter slaps Cody. Cody goes to slap Peter in the face, but Peter taps out because he doesn't want his face here. And it's just like, and then the match ends. So if they'd played that up a bit more, then that ending would probably made a bit more sense. But fine enough. So Cody wins. Jade Cargill's gone. Backstage segment of FTR with Tully. Tully says FTR are number 1 contenders, so they should have a title match. Jurassic Express interrupts him. Jungle Boy challenges Dax Harwood, but he says that he doesn't want any interference. And Luchasaurus says he'll make sure there is no interference in the match next week. Next match is Jon Moxley versus an unknown Nick Comoroto. No one knows who he is. He just looks like Bruiser Brody. He's got long, bushy hair and a big beard, and he's really hairy. I don't even think he's been on AEW Dark, which is their secondary show. Nick pushes Mox to start off with. Mox headbutts Nick. Nick hits a powerbomb on Mox. This again is surprisingly competitive. There's a lot. Mox gives Nick a lot, and Nick gives Moxley a lot. He even hits Moxley with an Ushi Garushi, a German suplex, and a run-in power slam as well. Then Mox hits a lariat and then a sleeper on Nick, and he wins as Nick passes out. Then gets a mic, cuts a promo saying that things are getting crazy on Wednesday nights. He can't keep track of who's doing what, who's in the Bullet Club, who's in the Elite, or who is from Impact. But he doesn't care. He says Kenny made it more fun because he's bringing loads of people in. There's more brawls, there's more bodies, and there's more limbs to break. He says he can bring anyone from Nashville, Japan, or Mexico. it won't matter because all roads lead to him.
Roads lead home.
Well, yeah, all the roads lead to Moxley getting a title shot back. Dasher is backstage interviewing Kingston with the Butcher and Blade and the Bunny about his match with Archer next week. How are you going to prepare? Kingston says he doesn't prepare, he just fights. Jake the Snake Roberts and Archer come in. It's just a shouting match. Jake gets in the face of Kingston and Jake just says, "Bite me." And that's it. It's not a good segment. Kenny's been interviewed by Marvez. Kenny's walking in. He's got like a big purple shirt on. Because he just is. He's just styling it out because he's the champion now and he's getting a big ego. So Marvez says, have you got any comments about what happened at the beach earlier on? And Kenny's just like, the beach? I haven't been to the beach. And he says, well, we were at your house. Kenny just like, why don't people tell me this stuff? So he goes to the locker room. He sees Don Callis talking on his phone. Don then speaks to Kenny, and you can see Don's got a big bruise on his face like he's been beaten up. Kenny's just like, who did this to you? We'll go and sort him out. And Don's just like, no, it's fine, don't worry about it. And then Don just says, it was the Bucks. He kind of accidentally on purpose says it was the Bucks. Yeah.
He was on about the Bucks or something.
Yeah, the Bucks. So that ends if they throw out the camera guy and Marvez. And there's a match between Private Party, Matt Hardy, and Top Flight with Matt Sydal. It's not really a good match. It's really it's very high flying, but there's a few botches. There's a weird botch where Top Flight try and do some strange move, but it doesn't come off. In the end, Quen hits one of Top Flight with a chair. No, Cassidy hits one of Top Flight with a chair. Cassidy hits one of Top Flight with a chair. Quen hits a shooting star press. They win. They've turned heel. MJF. After that, MJF is with the Inner Circle. They argue about their match later on. He says that they have to be a family to succeed, but he respects Sammy as Sammy speaks his mind. And they bump fists. He bumps fists with everyone but Sammy.
Seems like a dick move, really.
Yeah, he is kind of a dick. Yeah.
Everyone to show respect, really.
Absolutely. Next match is Layla Hirsch versus Penelope Ford, with Charles Taylor, because Chuck Taylor is now Charles Taylor. He's Miro's butler. Orange Cassidy is in the crowd, and he's watching on, concerned for his friend. Decent enough match, but the end of this match is botched, something weird. Penelope Ford gets the pin on Layla Hirsch, but I think her legs are too short to get to the rope because she's supposed to have a leg on the bottom rope, and Kip Sabian's supposed to pull her leg off the rope. But instead, it looks like he puts her leg on the rope and holds her leg on the rope, but it just doesn't look right. But she loses, and then afterwards, Miro calls Charles into the ring, says he could be mean to him, but he's a nice guy. He can take him to places, but he needs to let go of the past. And he says, tell Orange that Miro's his best friend now. He does it, and Orange slunks away, really sad. It's an odd segment. So, because he knows he's not being sincere. And we get backstage segment of the Good Brothers and Kenny beating up Penta. Kenny hits Penta with his boot and then starts choking Penta with the Good Brothers are choking Penta with a wire, and looks like Kenny's trying to blind Penta with with his boot. It's really odd. Then we get the main event, the triple threat. We get MJF and Jericho versus Sammy Guevara and Hager. Sammy Hager and the Proud and Powerful. Pretty decent match. Jericho nearly kills himself in the match when he attempts his lion salt and he lands on his frigging head. So the end of the match is MJF rolling up Sammy with a handful of tights, but the show goes off the air very, very abruptly. So it was a decent enough AEW. I think it'll probably win in the ratings again if you care about ratings, but NXT was a better show, bizarrely enough. So that's the end of that. How did you enjoy the review, Zach?
Yeah, it's been good. I've actually, I might watch the shows because some of the matches sounded interesting. So,
good lad.
Might have a look at them.
Would you like to come on the show again, the podcast again?
It's been fun, yeah.
Marvelous. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm just going to say follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter follow me on Twitter at Yardy316, follow the pod at Hardcam Podcast. Listen on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, follow on Podbean, Apple, Amazon, and you said Spotify as well.
Yeah.
This has been the NXT and AEW review of the Hardcam Podcast. We're out of time, folks. See you later. Say goodbye, Zach.
Bye.
Good lad. Love you, Zach.